I'm here with Ron Placone and Aaron Mate, the world-famous Russiagate debunker. Guess what? Joe Biden has announced, this is from the AP, President Joe Biden will leave the United States troops in Afghanistan beyond the May 1st deadline that was negotiated with the Taliban by Donald Trump. An official says Biden has set the 20th anniversary of the September 11th attacks as the new withdrawal date. Wow, that's not creepy at all. Let's ring in the 9/11 anniversary with a parting gift. What in the F and F? That is 20 years later, countless lives lost and trillions spent, and we finally gotten the message. Might as well wait for the day that started all this, though. Why wait? Why not just do it now? We're going to get out in about 7. Why not now? You can't just stop killing people willy-nilly. That's not safe. Somebody might get hurt. Barack Obama tweeted this out in October 2012. Vice President on Afghanistan, we are leaving in 2014, period. Period. And can I tell you something? He didn't even bother deleting that tweet. He didn't even bother deleting that tweet. That's that. Maybe September 2021. But you know the thing, President Biden. That's what Biden would say. Hey, there you go. I'm sure Joe Biden. This is what I think about when Joe Biden tells us we're leaving Afghanistan. Hey, remember how no one in Afghanistan caused 9/11, but we invaded them anyway? Good times. Good times. Yeah. Hey, CNN Politics is reporting concerns mount that the United States withdrawal from Afghanistan could risk progress on women's rights.
Of course. It's about women.
Imperialism for women's rights is the new greening of the military. By the way, September, that's plenty of time for a new excuse to pop up or to find other places to send those troops. But here it is. Concerns mount that U.S. troops. So if we stop killing people in Afghanistan, that's going to hurt women's rights. By the way, Biden just proposed $753 billion. That's an increase of about $20 billion from last year. Remember, he said he couldn't relieve $50 billion. If he was going to release $50 billion in student debt, you're going to have town halls and committee meetings and all kind of discussions and op-eds. But if you want to add $20 billion to the budget of bombs that we don't need, nothing just happens like that. Nobody even, did you hear anybody even scream about it? Did Bernie scream about it? Did AOC scream about it? No, they didn't say a fucking thing. Just in time for the new Pentagon budget. Yeah, there you go.
The United States is increasingly concerned by recent escalating Russian aggressions in eastern Ukraine, including Russian troop movements on Ukraine's border. Russia now has more troops on the border with Ukraine than at any time since 2014. 5 Ukrainian soldiers have been killed this week alone. These are all deeply concerning signs.
And so what do you know? Biden's going to give them $20 billion more. Why? Because Russia has a GDP smaller than California. But they will use Russia to justify $753 billion, which is roughly 10 times more than all the 10 next countries combined. Go ahead, check my math on that. I hope you do. And write an article about how it's wrong. Go ahead, please do. Check my math on. Jimmy Dore said it was 10 times more than the 10. It's actually just more than the 10 most. Oh, that's much better. Yeah, it's not 10 times more than the 10. It's just more than the 10 times 10. The Pentagon can't account for $21 trillion, and that's not a typo. For $21 trillion, that's not a typo. That's from 2018. That's from Truth Mother Effin' Dig. Hey, the Pentagon has a
remarkable.
It is. Go ahead, Ron.
It's just like, hey, where are my keys or my $21 trillion? Has anyone seen it around? It's got to be around here somewhere. Check the couch cushion.
Boy, I've lost some shit when I was high, but I don't think I would ever lose $21 trillion. There's not.
You never lost?
Even if I was smoking the Maui Wowie, I don't think I would lose $21 trillion. I think I would know where that was at.
Yeah.
I was like, I put it in my toilet tank.
You'd make a sticky note so you don't forget at the very least. Be like 21 trillion. I gotta keep tabs on that.
You wrap the 21 trillion up, you wrap it up in a plastic baggie, and you put it in the back of the toilet tank, just like when you bring home a girl you don't know that well. Come on. I'm trying to get Aaron to laugh. He's not even listening.
I am listening, and I was chuckling.
He only laughs at callbacks.
I know. So now we have to call that back.
That's true. Callback exclusive.
Boy, when you cannot laugh in my face that hard, that is fucking that's painful. All right, let's go back to what's happening here in the sketch. The Pentagon's $35 trillion accounting black hole. $35 trillion accounting black hole. Wow. We give the Pentagon $2 billion a day. We should not be doing that. That's public citizen. So there's Biden's Afghanistan war, Aaron. Do you think what do you make of that story from CNN?
Look, if Biden follows through on it, I'll be the first to applaud. We should know a couple of things. First of all, there was a great report at the Gray Zone recently by Gareth Porter, who reported that actually before Biden did this, Trump signed an order last year calling for a full withdrawal from Afghanistan by the end of the year. And it was handled with a guy named Douglas McGregor, who was briefly appointed by Trump to a top position at the Pentagon. And McGregor was going through with this, but meanwhile, a bunch of top generals went behind his back and basically forced Trump to back down and withdraw the order. So if not for an intervention by some top-level officials, we actually already would be out of Afghanistan if Trump had gone through with this. And that was thwarted, which just speaks to the, how powerful the forces are inside the military to keep U.S. troops in Afghanistan. Now, I don't know if Biden is bluffing or if he's sincere. If he is sincere, then he will face, I think, some continued obstruction and some hurdles to doing this. But look, if he goes through with it, then, again, I will applaud because, look, you're talking about women's rights. If you remember, Laura Bush was trotted out to sell us on the Afghan war before we invaded, and she was saying that her message was we should invade for the women to help women. So we have to invade to help women's rights, and now we can't leave after 20 years to help women's rights. There are some issues. When the Soviet Union withdrew in the late 1980s, early 90s, that left a major power vacuum, and it was taken over by the worst fanatics in the country, the Taliban, and that led to a lot of horrific carnage. And so we do want to avoid that no matter what happens, and that has to be a part of any withdrawal. But there's also been continued obstruction. We've seen so many lies about this war. If you remember back last fall, nobody really covered this except for you and a few others. But there were all those secret files, interviews with people talking about just all the lies that we were being told about Afghanistan, and that commanders were basically inventing false statistics to help justify the occupation there. We're going to see more of that.
They couldn't even delineate between who our friends were and who our enemies were. They didn't. They didn't even know who our enemies were in Afghanistan and who was on our side. They had no idea. They probably still don't have any idea. They don't. So when you said that has to be part of any withdrawal, what has to be part of any withdrawal with the Taliban?
Well, look, you just have to be mindful of history. Where when the Soviets withdrew, it led to something awful. There was a horrible fighting for control of the country. The Taliban won. Afghanistan became an even worse place for a lot of people. So we just you have to try to avoid a similar outcome like that. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Not that we shouldn't withdraw.
Right.
That's all.
I'm saying we should withdraw and try our best to avoid that. But if we can't avoid that, we have to. The Taliban controls more of Afghanistan today than they did when we invaded.
Well, yes, and they're going to still control parts of Afghanistan. I'm not saying that they won't, but we want to avoid the kind of a resumption of an all-out internal war like what happened the last time when the Soviets withdrew.
And I don't know how that could be true. What I said. How could the Taliban be controlling more of Afghanistan than didn't they control all of Afghanistan when we invaded? I'm not sure.
Well, but the other point is that initially the U.S. won some territory.
Right.
Right. And then they lost it.
They lost it.
Yeah. No. It's been a catastrophe. And of course, look, what was the aim of that war? Supposedly, it was to go after Al Qaeda. What did it actually do? At that point in time, Al Qaeda was basically in two places. It was in a remote part of Afghanistan and a remote part of neighboring Pakistan. Where is Al Qaeda now? Everywhere.
Everywhere.
And that's a result of this war and of its sequel, the Iraq War.
They literally, when we invaded, they had figured out that there was maybe about 80 guys in Al Qaeda that were still in Afghanistan. And we continued an occupation for 20 years to fight 80 guys. We sent the U.S. military to fight 80 guys in Afghanistan. I'll never, that was the report. That was the report of how many Al Qaeda people were there. Anyway. It's
and by the way, Jimmy, and listen, if Biden actually is serious about this, then we're going to see a resumption of things like the Russian bounties thing. The reason that was rolled out is because that was used to undermine Trump's calls for withdrawal.
Yeah.
That wasn't the only reason, but it was part of it. And we saw the impact. Glenn Greenwald covered this very well, where basically a bunch of neocon Democrats joined with Liz Cheney, and they passed measures that would make it a lot more difficult to withdraw from Afghanistan. So we're going to see the same kind of phony deceptions and the same phony talk about respecting women's rights and all this stuff, things that none of these people care about, and concern about the Russian bounties to try to slow this down if Biden is actually serious about a full withdrawal.
Hey, everybody, this is the part where I tell you where all our live shows are, but there aren't any. And then this is why I tell you to join our premium program and get extra content, but nobody's got a fucking job. So just enjoy the video.